What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So there's an odd remaster that's kind of out of left field that appears to be happening. At least something's in the works with it because it showed up as a ratings on a ratings board, and we're going to talk about that. And I'm going to talk to you a bit about what the remaster is and why you should be checking it out, because it's a game I actually really liked back in the day, so you're going to want to check that out. And then, of course, the hacking community around the Switch off to doing all kinds of crazy stuff again, and now they're playing Dreamcast games on the thing, so we're going to talk about that as well. As always, guys, enjoy these videos. Make sure you hit the like button. It does help out. And get subscribed. We do this every weekday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, to keep you up to date on all the news going around the video game world. Today, actually, we're going to start with Square Enix, because it looks like we are, of course, going up to E3, and we kind of already know at this point that they are going to be showing Final Fantasy VII Remake there, as we kind of figured they would now that Kingdom Hearts 3 is out. But during their investors briefing, they talked a bit about this month as well. As you can actually see, a tweet here from Mystic put out that they are going to have information, of course, at E3 about some of their games, and then on the road to E3, as in this month, there will also be more information disclosed. So we're going to want to keep an eye out for anything about Final Fantasy VII Remake, maybe information about the Avengers project, although I think they want to have that as the big reveal at E3, or who knows, maybe we get information about a localization like from the Secret of Mana collection. There's a lot of stuff they could talk about leading up to the event just to kind of start planting seeds for reveals, but exciting stuff, because it looks like this is going to be a big deal for Square going into E3, and that's exciting. They're taking Sony's spot, so I think they know they have to show up big there. Also, if you're like me, you probably like the campaign in Call of Duty games, and maybe you were pretty disappointed like me about Black Ops 4 pretty much just not having a campaign. They said it was baked into every aspect of Call of Duty Black Ops 4. It wasn't, because when I played it, I started to realize they just axed it because, well, they talked about how not a lot of people played it. But Infinity Ward, for what appears to be Modern Warfare 4 coming up at the end of this year, is doing a campaign, and it sounds like they picked up some interesting developers to help them out. Developers who have had some, we'll say, experience with a narrative, story-driven single player, like maybe an Uncharted, for example. This is an interesting situation because it does look like they do have those ex-Naughty Dog developers actually helping out heavily with the Modern Warfare 4, again, I'll say Modern Warfare 4 because it seems pretty obvious, campaign. And this was actually disclosed to us by Mic'd on Twitch, who's an Infinity Ward developer, and apparently, yes, the Naughty Dog developers, or ex-Naughty Dog developers they hired seemingly for this task, have been involved heavily with the campaign. And I'm excited to hear that there is a campaign, and I want it to be very, very good, because I do think Activision has looked at the stats and they realize the campaign might not be worth putting a ton of money into, and if it's not well received, they might see it as a waste of money anyway, because Black Ops 4 still sold well. It's not like the campaign would have had it sell any extra, so yeah, I feel like the campaign is on borrowed time in Call of Duty games, but I do enjoy them a lot. And Infinity Ward with Modern Warfare games, I like those campaigns like way more than any of the other ones. So I am excited to see what Modern Warfare 4 is. And of course, with Naughty Dog developers, it could be pretty interesting. Oh, and as for EA's, their event, their EA Play at E3, we already know that they're not gonna do a live presentation. They're mostly gonna do a bunch of streams for us to watch. Well, it looks like it's not gonna go past the 8th of June. So that's Saturday. We're gonna have just a day of streams, and that's kind of it. If you still attend the show, you can still go on Sunday, and apparently they'll have content creators streaming for what is hopefully Skate 4, but we'll of course see Jedi The Fallen Order there, and that I'm sure will be the big showpiece next to, of course, Skate 4. But I think it's just gonna be a full day of streaming. They'll do their events, and then after that, we'll be pretty much forgetting about EA as we go into Microsoft, Nintendo, and we just talked about Square. So EA is gonna just show their stuff off, and that'll kind of be that on Saturday. So we're not gonna have this weird live presentation. We'll just get a bunch of streams then, and then we'll kind of move on to, I would say, the main events. And with some of the quick news out of the way, guys, let's get into the bigger stuff. We're gonna start with that remaster right away, because it's Ghostbusters The Video Game. I know, isn't that crazy? Now, if you missed this game, it came out back in 2009, and when I played it on the 360, I and many others realized that it's basically the third movie. It was, I think, a really fun time. I really liked playing through it, had a great time with it, had online multiplayer and everything, so you could do some co-op, and it was just really fun. You just go around capturing ghosts, and they had a full-on plot that felt, again, like the third movie. I liked it a lot. It was really fun. So to hear about the possibility of a remaster was interesting, and it feels like less of a possibility because it's literally called Ghostbusters Video Game the Remastered, and it's actually a rating that was spotted for the Taiwan Digital Ratings Board. The actual rating was shown by Gamatsu, and yeah, this appears like it could be happening. Now, it's been rated for the Xbox One. Now, this game, when it came out in 2009 and then leading through the years, it was out on everything. It was out on the DS, it was on the PlayStation Portable, it was on the Wii, it was on the PS3, it was on the Xbox 360, I believe the PC, it was everywhere. So I feel like if this comes back and it is fully remastered, we only know about the Xbox One version right now based on the ratings board. You don't usually get stuff rated and pay that money unless it's actually coming out. And I think it would probably sell pretty well too. To be honest, while there are a lot of people who missed it, or maybe they started playing games afterwards, I can tell you it's worth picking up because it's a very fun game. And if they remaster it and maybe add 4K visuals for the Xbox One X and the PlayStation 4 Pro, they bring over the gyro aiming, right, for the Switch and everything, that would be a really, really fun game. Maybe even have same screen co-op or something with the split Joy-Cons for the Switch and everything as well. I really like the idea of this. I hope it happens. Now, the question is this an E3 announcement? Is this something leading up to E3? I could see it as something that's just revealed at E3. Is like, hey, we're going to do a Ghostbusters game. It's coming out at the end of the year. It's a remaster. Don't get, crazy excited. It's not the next one or anything. But for people who missed it, you can pick it up. 2009 was 10 years ago. So it sounds crazy, right, to say that. But yeah, there are people who they started gaming after that. So if you're one of those people, do not skimp on this game. It's fun, I promise. I really do. I'm not messing with you right now. I promise it's a fun game and you should look into it. The question here is it coming out on everything? Is this going to come out and it's going to be PC, Xbox One, PS4, and Switch? I hope so. And honestly, I kind of think so. I think it's just going to be on everything. So exciting stuff there, but that could possibly be an E3 announcement that we have now seen because of the ratings boards. So we'll keep an eye out for that one. Next up, let's talk about Dreamcast games on the Switch. We all want it. SEGA Ages is the place that it would most likely come from officially, but of course, as we've seen time and time again, the hacking community around the Switch is able to bring features for quality of life for just the system itself, whether it's backing up data locally, which is still not available on the Switch, but if you have a hacked Switch, you can do it. In this case, they have loaded up Dreamcast games onto the system. They actually ported over Rycast, and you could technically do that now. They shared some screenshots, and it seemed like they had loaded up Jet Grind Radio, or Jet Set Radio as a lot of us know it at this time. Back then, when they released it on disc, it was Jet Grind Radio, and it looks actually pretty cool. It is pretty cool idea to think about Dreamcast games on the Switch. Now, it's still an alpha, which means it doesn't run great. They even admit themselves there's still a lot of work to be done, and I do expect them probably to work through it as they have time. See, the thing about Rycast is it's kind of just a emulator they play around with, they work on in their free time, and there's no real timetable or rush to get this thing done. It's not like Cemu, where Cemu was getting tons and tons of donations and stuff to get it done faster, right? So they could put more time aside. This is more of a hobby project thing that they have going on, where Cemu was almost a commercial Wii U emulator, which is still weird that Nintendo never did anything about that from what I've seen. But hey, it's out there. People love Cemu, obviously. And Rycast is pretty cool too. To see the Switch actually run it okay though, it's interesting. It does make me wonder if they're just people just playing around with the idea and doing it. Is M2 doing it? I know they're busy with the Genesis Mini right now, but I feel like if just people as a hobby can do it, I don't see why M2 wouldn't be able to design their own emulator to then run Dreamcast games on the Switch. The reason I bring this up is because it is clear that, yes, the Switch could emulate Dreamcast games, and I think M2 with the talent they have could absolutely make it happen. So Sega, you gotta start putting Dreamcast games on the Switch, because we saw your recent financial report and you're just leaving just literally a stack of cash on the table right now. So start moving over all those awesome Dreamcast games, even if they're $10 a piece, maybe even 15 for some of the bigger ones, I don't know, Skies of Arcadia or something. People are gonna buy it. So, bring them over. Next up, let's talk about WWE 2K19 and then 2K20 and 2K and Take-Two and Ukes. Well, this is an interesting situation because, of course, they haven't been good. They've been average at best, mediocre across the board for the most part, and it's even worse if you try to port it to a system like the Switch where it's clearly not designed to be, and it turns into the disaster that is WWE 2K18, and that was really bad. And then even attempt 2K19, I don't think they're going to even attempt 2K20. But what's interesting is it seems like Yuke's has kind of recognized something that a lot of us have been saying about EA and even WWE with 2K and everything. It's that when there is no competition for these games, whether you buy the license or you have an agreement with the company or the organization so that you're the only one designing them, generally creativity and everything will just kind of just stagnate. Like nothing will happen. You won't try to push harder than if, you know, like let's say there was someone next to you competing with you, you would work a bit harder. And that's what Yuke's is apparently going to be trying to do. They're going to be developing, and this could be good, we'll see. They're gonna be developing a new wrestling IP internally, kind of as competition to the other team that develops the 2K, WWE 2K series. Now, what would they be developing? Well, it could be separate, like how we had back in the day. This was a thing. We had the SmackDown series and we had the Day of Reckoning series, just as an example. Yuke's did both. THQ published them. It wasn't like, they weren't stretched so thin that they weren't able to do them. And honestly, I like Day of Reckoning a lot. I thought that was a great game, but Here Comes the Pain is still my favorite, and I feel like we got Here Comes the Pain because Day of Reckoning came out and that was really good, and then Here Comes the Pain had to be really good, and it kind of went up from there. So I think they're absolutely right, and I think they looked back on that time and realized they were innovating like crazy because they were essentially competing against themselves. So it might sound weird at first, but I get it. And honestly, if that actually means that WWE 2K will be interesting again and good, and maybe they come out with, even if it's not a simulation wrestling game like they're trying to produce, but maybe a more arcadey one, that would be good too. So as long as a good wrestling game comes out of this, then I think most people will be excited about it. But we'll see. It's still in early development. There's also a possibility that this could just turn into a Switch-only wrestling game because 2K or WWE 2K series doesn't seem to work very well on it. So if they develop one from the ground up for a system that has a larger install base now than previously with 2K18 when that came out, that would also make sense and I think be pretty exciting for people. And our last bit of news, let's talk about a possible leak that has happened for Gears of War 5, or should I just say Gears 5. Here's a screenshot of as you're seeing here, the cover art. It just says Gears 5. I don't really know what that's about. This is actually from a webpage, Generation Xbox, and they actually had the exclusive on this where they spotted it on a Taiwan age classification board. Once again, they're just handing out all kinds of stuff, cover art, release dates, games existing, and this was spotted there. And Gears 5, as the cover art shows, would apparently, according to this, be launching September 10th, and that is actually 3 days apart from Borderlands 3, and that is an odd situation there to release it within 3 days of what's going to be a very big game this year. But Gears 5, of course, has the advantage of, well, being Gears of War, essentially, and there's a large following for that. So I think I'd almost be like Borderlands would be more annoyed that Gears is launching near Gears rather than Gears being annoyed that they would be coming in contact with Borderlands 3 almost, because of course Gears will also be on Game Pass, which is, well, a benefit since they're mostly looking for active users, and Game Pass can give them active users without having to sell them a $60 game. I don't think either game will actually really hurt each other because they'll be mostly looking for sales throughout the holidays, because those are gonna be games that are gonna run with heavy sales throughout into January. So that's probably when they'll really look back and see how they did, not as much on launch day as, you know, going over the next few months. But September 10th actually makes sense. I think we'll see a release date, obviously at E3. I think they'll show it to us. I think we'll have a gameplay session maybe even, and then we'll find out. But either way, Gears 5, the cover art I think looks fine. It's interesting to just say Gears 5 and not Gears of War 5, but maybe they're trying to change it up and give us something a bit different. It already looks kind of different from the gameplay and everything, so hey, we'll see. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here, from Unstoppable, saying, I'm hoping that new Pokemon app will be something that's fun to play in short bursts on the go, but also something that can interact with Sword and Shield, even if it's just Pokebank access / management. So I didn't really think of that, but yeah, Pokemon Go and Pokemon Let's Go, of course, they work together, and it's worked for, I would say, for Nintendo and the Pokemon company. So yeah, maybe this next game or app will have some kind of compatibility with Sword and Shield. It wouldn't shock me, to be honest, just because I'm sure the Pokemon company wants to link everything together for what they're trying to do, which is get the cell phone crowd to also buy into a Switch and then also buy the Pokemon Sword and Shield game, and that they want that crossover. So I would expect an event maybe to have them cross over, possible compatibility, although this is going to be their mainline series coming up, their quote-unquote hardcore RPG series, so maybe they don't want to straight up incorporate some like compatibility where they're locked together forever, but I could see like an event running between them that's like, hey, if you're in Sword and Shield and you record this many captured Pokemon of this type, you know, you'll get extra stuff in the cell phone game and vice versa. Interesting thought there, and I do think in some way they will either have advertising events or possibly just link together with a feature. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, make sure the like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether there's Dreamcast games now running on the Switch through Rycast, a Dreamcast emulator, and do you think that means that M2 has already been working on it, since we see the Switch playing Dreamcast games from what is a hobby emulator? Let me know what you think about that. And then what's the first Dreamcast game you want to see released on the Switch if it does indeed happen and they start releasing them? Also, what about Ghostbusters? Did you play it back in the day, or are you now interested after hearing about it now and going back to look at it because you missed it when it came out? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.